I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today I'm joined by Mr. Roy Castleman. He's had a very interesting life and a very troubling life when it first started. At 19, he was hit by a drunk driver going 70 miles an hour on a UK motorway. Lying broken on that road, he wasn't thinking about the pain. He was consumed by regret over everything he hadn't done. That near-death moment became the blueprint for living without limits. He immigrated to the UK with only 75 euros in the bank and built to now building a multiple seven-figure IT company. He also survived the 2008 crash and acquired the very company where he started as an engineer and thought he had it figured out. Then he bought an adventure center just before COVID, lost nearly everything, and found himself in the hospital bed contemplating suicide. He's been so I would like to give a huge shout out and welcome to Roy. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to hear your story today.
Thank you, Noah. I just had a bit of a freeze up there, so I'm not sure whether it was on your side or mine. Anyway, let's go. Well, great to be here. Thank you very much. And yeah, I believe that we come down to this planet, we come down to this existence to have experiences and to really live lives we can love and enjoy. And as you say, I was yeah laying on that road, wandering, you know, worrying about the things I hadn't done, the regrets of the things I hadn't done. I wasn't worrying about anything I'd done. And that was so pivotal. And I now look back on that with a lot of gratitude. Since then, I've jumped out of airplanes 2,500 times. I've scuba dived, yeah, with sharks and all sorts of other things all over the world. I free dive all over the world. And I get up in the morning and I know if I walk outside and get hit by a car again, yeah, I won't have the same regrets in my life. And I just encourage everybody to stop putting off what they want to do in favor for those things that they think they should do. It's just not worth it. Yeah.
Starting out your life, it said that you had immigrated to the UK. Where are you originally from, and what made you want to go to the UK to live a new life there?
Well, I was born in Zimbabwe and I stayed in Zimbabwe for a couple of years. And we then moved to South Africa. So I spent most of my formative time in South Africa. My father was a pilot and he changed jobs a lot. So I had literally every 6 months or 3 months or 5 months a new house and a new place to live. And that was very challenging at times. And then, yeah, South Africa, such a beautiful country, it really is. the opportunities there were just very limited. And I got the traveling bug in my blood, and I came to the UK in 1995. I came to the UK and then went off to the US for a short while. And I saw a different side of the world. Decided that I want to go and travel more, and that's been a mainstay of my life ever since. I travel a lot. I've literally just come back from a trip to Egypt. I was in Egypt for 10 days. Yeah, free diving in the Red Sea, which was really kind of amazing. And so when I left South Africa, I didn't have a plan. I had very little money. I didn't really even have a career. I hadn't done very well at university. I was run over during my university stroke college experience. So I didn't complete that. And I had, been entrepreneurial from the beginning. Was selling newspapers at 11 years old, and then I went and worked on a mushroom farm. And while I was on that mushroom farm, not magic type, just a normal supermarket type, while I was on that mushroom farm, people were saying, "Oh, bring some mushrooms home, bring some mushrooms home." And so I started bringing a few mushrooms home and sold those. And I was making back in those days in South Africa, I was making 1,500 rand a month in my job. That was what I was paid for my salary. And contextually, that's 75 pounds as well now. Then I started taking these mushrooms back, and one day I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take more bags home and I'm going to try and sell them. So I asked the farmer if I could buy these bags of mushrooms. I bought 20 bags of mushrooms at 4 rand each, and got in my car and drove down to town and stopped at the first office block that I found and walked in and said, "Does anybody want to buy some mushrooms? They're fresh. They've just been picked this morning." And everybody bought. The first place I went into, everyone bought them. And literally within, I think it was 3.5, 4 months, I was making 10,000 rand a month, selling mushrooms, and 1,500 rand a month, working the company. So I said to the farmer, "Do you mind if I quit this and just carry on selling mushrooms?" And that was my first foray into the business world. And I learned many lessons in that process and things to do, and more importantly, things not to do. And that the because I was waiting for the insurance and court case to finish from the car accident that I had, I didn't travel at that point because I had to stay in the country. So that was a defining timeline for me. Was right, I'm going to go and travel. I want to go and travel. I have to wait for this thing to happen. And as it turned out, I probably shouldn't have. I wasted almost 4 years waiting for that, and it got a payout of $3,000 or something around that value. So not really worth the effort. And then came over and started living a different life. And having arrived in the UK, I was on a holiday work visa, which was only a 2-year visa. I had to work out what to do, and that wasn't in the days of the internet. I'm old enough to remember those days that we didn't have Google and all these good things. And literally, there were magazines, and I found a job that was for the BBC. And I just started working with computers. And this job for the BBC was a spreadsheet operator. And I didn't really know what a spreadsheet was. I'd turned the computer on twice. So off I went down to White City, which is the big BBC building. And on the way there, I went past a shop, and it had Excel and Word training, on the front window. So I went in and said to the lady there, how much is your training? And she said it's 70 pounds. And at that stage, I knew I had 75 pounds left. And then nothing. So I was like, okay. And I said to her, "Listen, maybe if you can give me some training, I'm going for this job interview now. Maybe if you can give me some training, I can get the job interview and I can come back and do your course. So I just need half an hour to know what a spreadsheet is and to know some things." And she was game. She was off for it. So she says, "Yeah, why not?" She didn't have anything to do. So I did that with her, and then went in and got my first job in the UK, which was kind of relieving. So I had to eat bread for a couple of weeks because there wasn't going to be a paycheck. But I did my Excel course, and I was in gainful employment in the UK.
That's amazing to go from what happened to you prior to being able to be in this really successful career. Um, as I said in the intro, at 19, um, or in 2008, you had a really horrific car crash. Can you tell me a little bit about
Yeah,
the,
car crash was actually in 1991, so a long time ago. Yeah, and I had an argument with my partner, who later became my wife. And being young and full of testosterone and all those kind of things, I decided to just leave. So I left and I walked out, and I was hitchhiking on the motorway. And as I'm hitchhiking down the motorway, yeah, I got one ride, got off, got another ride, yeah, and then got off and was going to get into look for a third ride. And as I was hiking, I just heard this noise, turned around, and as I turned around, this driver in a Mercedes Benz had fallen asleep at the wheel and he just veered off. I turned around, he drove into my leg as I was turning and broke my tib and my fib. My head went through the windscreen. My arm, you can see it's bent, yeah, went wrapped around the mirror, and this threw me into the middle of the road. And I stayed conscious through this, and thankfully, these two Samaritans saw what happened and they stopped the car. And I was lying broken in the road in all sorts of pain and not knowing whether, I was going to make it. There were cars zipping past. And they straightened me so that I was on the white line and stood at my head and my foot, while they called the police and the ambulance. And, yeah, and that was when I was just sitting there thinking, I wish I'd told my mom I loved her. I wish I'd gone skydiving. I wish I'd, traveled a bit more and seen the world a bit more. Yeah, and just not really thinking that I thought that was it. I thought that was the end of it. And just vowed to myself that as I went through the journey of life, if I had the opportunity again to go and I wanted to do something, I was going to go and do it, and just dig in with everything I had to make sure that I could do it. And I'm so grateful for that time. I'm so grateful for that experience, even though at the time, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So.
did the doctors expect you to make a full recovery? What was kind of the prognosis that you had when you went in the hospital?
Well, by the time I was in the hospital, they didn't know whether I'd walk again because my leg was so badly broken. It had crushed. So, the head injury they realized wasn't too bad. I think I had a crack in the skull, but it wasn't, life-threatening. And the arm was, also didn't really know what was going to happen there because there was a compound fracture in that. So by that stage, I think the ambulance guys had stabilized me and I wasn't looking like I was going to die, but it looked like I might well, have no leg, and arm was touch and go at stages as well. So there was a real possibility of not having the same life that I was planning on having, at that early stage. So.
Did the accident kind of make you have a new way of living? Do you think if the accident hadn't have happened, you wouldn't have done all these fun experiences like you had said skydiving, you've done a lot of free diving and the business thing. Do you think if the accident hadn't have happened that this all these kind of experiences would have happened?
I believe that. Yeah, I believe that if I hadn't had the accident, then I wouldn't have. When you're pushed so far that you don't know whether you have tomorrow, yet you realize that today is the only time you've got to live. So, sometimes you have to make really, on the spur of the moment decisions to do things. And what do we do as humans? So often, we put things off for tomorrow. And when you realize there might not be tomorrow, then for sure you take a view that, I've got to do it now. I mean, one of the tricks I do at the moment is, and have done for years, if I want to do something, if I want to go somewhere and see something, or if there's an experience I want to do, then I book a part of that trip as soon as I see that I want to do it. So I might want to go to Iceland and see the Northern Lights. So I'll book a flight or I'll book a part of the experience. And once I booked it, then the motivation is to go the rest of the way and do more. So yes, definitely, I've lived a different life than I potentially would have.
Another thing that I find kind of interesting is that you had before COVID had began, I had mentioned that you had bought an adventure or I can't talk, adventure center. Um, but you lost nearly everything and you found yourself in a hospital bed and you were really thinking about suicide. Describe a little bit about what led you to be wind up in the hospital and kind of share a little bit about what happened with the I swear, Adventure Center.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Well, yeah, as I said, I skydive. I like the water. I like various things. And this adventure center had an indoor wind tunnel. Yeah, it had an indoor surfing place, a flow rider, which you guys in the US know quite well. Yeah, it had a hotel and two bars and a restaurant, and it was a big place. And a group of us got together and bought it, and I ran it. And yeah, in the first, so we bought it in 2000 and completed in the end of 2018. At the beginning of the middle of 2019, the main power supply outside blew up. So this is the power supply from the power provider, these big transformers. Yeah, so we were without power for 6 months. And at this stage, yeah, I've taken a lot of money from my IT companies. I had three IT companies at that stage. I took a lot of money from the IT company, my personal savings, and all of us got together to buy this really big asset. And so that, that was a massive investment in something that I loved. And that then we got to the end of 2019 and literally, started working again. Then 2020 came along and the government locked us down and we couldn't do anything. We couldn't have people in. We couldn't, And we had an amazing team, but at the height of it, I had 150 people working for me, with all the pressures and pains that come with that. And, I'd been working with IT companies before, and IT companies were a very different beast. And now I had a hotel, a gym, a swimming pool, two restaurants, a soft play area, a wind tunnel, escape rooms, and all these other things to manage, which were all different. And I think the big lesson that I learned with this is that, there's a few lessons I learned. The first lesson was that sometimes you can't fix everything. Because I always had a totally, confident belief that I could make anything work. If I just worked hard enough, if I just did enough, then I could make it work. And when you can't get customers through the door, there's just nothing you can do about it, right? We got quite close. We managed to we had an escape room that very early on, we managed to take the escape room and put it onto Zoom. So we had a lot of customers coming into the escape room on Zoom. Yeah, and that was generating revenue. That was kind of, quite fun and interesting. And we built some more escape rooms. But that was such a small area and such a big expense. And the reason I ended up in hospital was that I had, the level of stress that I was going through was high, obviously. Yeah, I got to a point where, the money was just leaving and nothing was coming in. And the stress grew and stress grew and stress grew. And I ended up, I had diverticulitis and had an attack of diverticulitis. So I ended up in the hospital with a burst colon, that was stress related. And then came out of the hospital and, they told me when I got out of the hospital that I had to come up with £50,000 for salaries that they hadn't told me wasn't there. And that was just literally like, the ending for me. And I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and, we had this 130-foot tower. I climbed up the tower to the top of the tower and was, going to jump off. I'd had enough. And one of the big things that saved me was that, I don't know if you've heard of Wim Hof. So Wim Hof is a chap that teaches cold exposure and breath work. And I'd been doing Wim Hof for a while. So I decided to, take this opportunity to do some breath work while sitting up there and the sun was starting to come up. And that breath work just allowed me, from a mental point of view, to just make the next day, to take the next step. And I realized I had to change, I had to let go. let go of the branch and then just came down and decided to firstly book a Wim Hof instructor's course so that I could share this with other people, but also you know accept the worst case scenario, accept that I was probably going to be bankrupt, and try very hard every single day, to make that better. And that's one of my personal recommendations to anyone. If you're in a situation and you think you can't get out of it, just accept the very worst case scenario. It's always going to be better than if you're not here on this plane on this earth. So accept the worst case scenario, deal with that, and then just spend your energy. Rather than spending your energy worrying about the problem, you spend your energy on making the problem, making the work on the solution rather than worrying about the problem. And slowly but surely, I left that, and that brought me to really what I'm doing at the moment, which is understanding that firstly, business owners are. I think business owners are awesome. We go out, we see a problem in the world, and we try and solve that problem in the world. And it's an exciting time. It's such an amazing thing to do, to stop working for somebody else and start being responsible for yourself. So we don't have enough time as business owners. We really don't have time. And I spent a lot of time doing Wim Hof, doing breath work, doing meditation, and understanding how to get our mind back. But then after that, I started using AI a lot. And that's where I come to my process now, which is I teach people how to use AI, so that they can get them some time back. And then I teach them about wellness. I teach them about the power of breath work. I teach breath work actually as part of what I do at one of the major universities in the UK. And I teach breath work to high-performing business owners, because it's so powerful. And then I can go out and I can coach people on how to run their business. So I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have all these painful experiences all the way along. And hopefully at this stage I can help shortcut some of those pains and problems for other people, and just let them share what's worked for me.
I like that you had mentioned AI, because I think it's really interesting to know from different business partners about their opinion on AI. And it seems like you kind of use AI to help with your job and everything. But I think one thing that a lot of people would probably like to know is how can AI actually save entrepreneurs 20 plus hours per week without actually replacing them?
I think AI is quite honestly the next part of our human evolution, right? And that's quite a big statement, right? Yeah.
Mm,
If you think about how we work at the moment or how we have worked historically, we take this first view that we go and learn something. We get a book, we do a course, we do a training, whatever it is we do. We take that information into our head, yeah, and then we're able to process it and push it out. With AI, we don't need to learn all that stuff. We do learn things along the way, but we can actually get a solution to a problem, with access to all the information in the world, and the world is free. And the thought process that I have at the moment is that as business owners go through their day, if they're actually trying to solve their problems, but using AI as a tool, not being afraid of it, they can get a lot more clarity in a very, very short space of time, on subjects that they don't know about. So, do you want to create a marketing plan? Do you want to create a sales cycle? Do you want to understand your operations better? And even if you don't know, even where to start, you can just use the AI to actually, I don't know where to start. Can you give me some pointers? This is the problem I've got. So long as you know the problem, you can get to a solution. And AI, isn't smart enough to do, the role of a human. We have to be keeping the human, at the top. We have to bring the human to the top. But AI can take away so many of those redundant tasks. I also do podcasts, as you do, and when you finish this podcast, potentially what you do is you take the podcast, you put it onto Descript or something, you edit it, you take out the filler words, you maybe make the sound quality better, and then you create the show notes. You might create the YouTube description, put a couple of things in that. Then you go out and you'll upload it to Captivate or to one of the other podcast areas. And that all takes time, right? And What I do when I finish the podcast is I take the audio file, I drop it in a folder, and that all gets done for me. Yeah, I then go through and with my human eye and I check it and I'm like, let's write no change, let's do this. And instead of taking me an hour and a half, or an hour if I'm getting good at it, it only takes me, I think it takes the tool about 7 minutes to do it. Yeah, then it takes me another 5 minutes to actually post it. Yeah, and this can we use the tools, understanding our business processes and understanding what we're doing with them? Can we use the tools to shortcut the things we don't need to be human on to allow us to do more, human things with people? Imagine you have a team of 10 people. If you have a team of 10 people and you're thinking, oh, AI is going to take our jobs, yeah, then AI is not going to take your job. Somebody that's using AI will take your job. If AI is going to take our jobs, and you can say, right, instead of this 10 people actually working, from 8 until 6 p.m. every day, working really hard, then potentially what we need to do, is let them work for 4 or 5 hours a day. Yeah, and if we let them work 4 or 5 hours a day, doing much more human stuff, and we're letting the AI really kind of take on the load, then you'll probably be able to serve 10 times the number of customers using it that way. So there's a real mind shift that we have to take that, this is a tool that if we understand it, if we use it correctly, it can make things more efficient and effective for us. And that'll allow us to be more human, to be more responsive to our clients, to be more present with people that we want to be present with. So I think, for me, there's so many people using AI at the moment. They use ChatGPT to help them write an email, and that's as far as it's going. Yeah, but then there's a whole new space coming out where so much more is going to be done. And if we can just keep the human at the top and make the human important, we're all going to go towards connection. We're going to go back to nature. We're going to go back to, away from the internet and to actually meeting people again. And that's my wish for the future. And we can do that if we honestly do that with AI doing the boring stuff we don't want to do anymore.
I think it's something that a lot of businesses are afraid of how well, I think some business leaders and some employees are worried about AI taking jobs because of how advanced it started to get over the past 2 years. I mean, coming from where it started back in 22, 23, and where it is now, it's scary of how well it's advanced, where it kind of went from, oh, you can easily tell if a video is fake to now it's so hard to decipher what's real and what's not. And I, s- I've used AI too about some stuff. I've never used AI when it came to editing episodes because AI for me tends to not really work properly or works as well. So I kind of have done most of the editing by myself. Now, I think it would be fun for an AI bot to do it because then it would save time. But then I would have to go back and listen to the whole episode, and there's really no point in using AI for me to help edit it because it will just be, oh, it'll take 5 minutes, but then I have to sit down and listen to the whole 45 minute interview, sometimes longer than that, to see if there was any mistakes made. So, um, but I wish it would help save time. I think one thing that a lot of people get is it's hard to really start a business now compared to what it was before. What advice do you have for anyone that's looking into wanting to start a business, or they've started a business but they're having a really hard time taking off and really getting the attention and the success that they want? What advice do you have for them?
Well, there's a few things. I think, it sounds to me like you're a perfectionist, and that's a problem with how we are as business owners quite often, and that's a lesson that I've learned along the way. Yeah, if I can do a job 80% of the way there, or 85% of the way there, instead of waiting until I've got 100%, and I can get that job out, then I make movements forward, and in that process, I learn as well. So for me, what you're saying about the podcast and editing, I get it. You know, I also have taken the process, and I've learned this over a range of time. Now, in terms of what to do as a business owner, there's so many tools now. If you're going to try and start a business, what problem are you going to solve? Right. So there's a problem in the world that we're going to go and solve, and then does that problem actually need to be solved, for everybody, or is it just a problem that you've seen? Right. Making sure there's enough people, to actually buy the solution to the problem, and then do those people have money to buy the solution? You're going to put time and effort. Everyone, times I have conversations with people where they say, "I've got this really great idea for a business. You could just go and do this." And an old adage that I've heard is it takes the same amount of time to go and sell widgets and create a business doing widgets than it does to have a business with a really good idea. It takes the same time and effort. The business coaching that I do is all around, the 9 core competencies that you need to run a business. And these are true regardless of what you're selling or regardless of what you're doing as a business. So you can have a really good idea, but you still need to understand who your customer is. You still need to be able to communicate with them on social media and or other ways, or even go knocking door to door. You still need to understand how to hire staff if you want to grow the company. You need to understand how to deliver the solution effectively all the way so that you have good customer service reviews and you're keeping your customers happy. You need to understand how to ensure that you're collecting the money and the finances are all right. And then you need to understand, for me, a really big lesson was how do I become able to walk away from the business and the business still runs? Because you start as a solo entrepreneur and you do all the jobs, right? Everything has to be done. And then you go forward and you're like, okay, I'm going to hire somebody because I've now got enough money coming in. So you hire somebody, but now you have to do half of the jobs or 3/4 of the jobs and manage somebody. And that's a different skill set. And then this grows up and grows up. And if you don't get that balance right, something like 70% of small businesses fail in the first year. There's a ludicrously high amount of failure. And what I'd recommend to people that are going to go and do this, do your research properly. Make sure you know who you're selling the goods to, what you're selling, what problem you're solving, and that there's actually a real need for it. I see so many people going out and saying, "Okay, I'm just going to start this thing because it's a really good idea and I like it." And it's not about what you like; it's about what your customers need, right? And then the second piece is, make sure you have a passion for the thing you're doing. Right, I'm really passionate about helping business owners live the life they love. And for me, it was really difficult to run IT companies because, having a passion for IT is okay internally, but having a passion for supporting other companies' IT, you need to really dig quite deep for it. So what is it you're doing that you want to do? Are you passionate about it? And if there's enough passion, that passion will guide you through the darker times, because there will be dark times. There's going to be good times, there's going to be dark times. I've yet to meet more than a handful of business owners that have had a really good idea, gone out and put it together and made a chunk of money without having bad times. We all hear about the good times. We don't hear about the bad times because people don't talk about it. But almost everybody I speak to has gone through a significant level of pain to get to the point where they are.
On top of everything that you do, you're also the podcast host of Power Movers. Tell me a little bit more about the podcast and what um the main goal is on that show.
My main kind of goal with that is to allow interesting people that I've met to share their stories and to share their lessons. And it's generally entrepreneurs, and people that, I've had somebody on there that's the world champion ice swimmer. I have Wim Hof instructors on there that have done crazy things. People that have built businesses. One of my clients is, a producer of music shows and performances. And he's gone from being a teacher to next year potentially turning over 3 to 4 million pounds. And it's just sharing those lessons that people have learned along the way, and giving some inspiration to people that it is possible. And more important than that, it's the journey can be so fun if you let it be fun. So it's really digging into those stories of when you decide I'm going to stop working for somebody and giving them 9 to 5, and I'm going to start working for myself and potentially spending from 7 to 7 working, but doing it more in a manner of freedom.
Well, I really admire your hardworkingness and this really how far you've come. Most people, if they would have experienced what you have gone through, would have really given up early in life and they would just really have not felt motivated to get where they are today. I think hearing your story is such a huge motivation for people that are struggling and that um they have gone through really troubling times, and I think it's just really important for people to know that yes, while you've been through some real challenging stuff, it's never the end point of you to really just say, you know what, I can't do it anymore. I give up. I think you're a huge inspiration to people that have felt um lost and that they really um just need guidance. If people would like to support your podcast and they would like to maybe, if they have additional questions or advice about business management when it comes to owning one, starting one up, where can they best contact you? And most of all, importantly, where can everyone find you to connect with you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn and the various social media platforms. So I'm Roy Castleman, on LinkedIn. My podcast is Power Movers, and if you search Power Movers Roy Castleman, that'll come up. It's on all the major channels. And by all means, reach out. I'll share my contact information with you, and you can put that up as well. Reach out. Always happy to have a chat with people. Always happy to kind of offer my thoughts on maybe what the next steps might be. And what I would say is, just go and do it. Step and go. Yeah, there's no point in waiting for tomorrow. Today's all you've got. So,
Well, Roy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this really impactful story with me. And I think you're strong and really hardworking. And I just really appreciate you for coming on today.
my pleasure, my pleasure. Great. Thank you for having me.
I'll put all of his links in the description box below. I'll put his website as well as his social media accounts down there. His podcast, Power Movers, is available wherever you get your podcast from. So if you would like to hear some more personal stories of success from business owners and some from entrepreneurs, feel free to go check out his podcast. Feel free to follow me on social media as well. Instagram and TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast, and Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It's Noah's Podcast on there. And of course, listen to Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. Feel free to go check that out and subscribe to it so you get notified of when new episodes drop. Thank you so much to everyone for listening today. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Be safe, and I'll catch you all on the next episode of Lethal Venom.